The Department of Basic Education has come under pressure to review its 30% pass mark policy for matriculants, and the department admits that it's aware of arguments to raise the threshold to 50%. However, it says the proposal wouldn't pass as the current policy aims to encourage what is called different levels of achievement. One South Africa movement leader, Musi Maimane, and many other commentators have been vocal asking for a policy change. But what do educators think? Joining us for this is Basil Manuel, Executive Director at NEPTOSA. It is the Professional Teachers Organization of South Africa. Basil, good to have you with us tonight on In Focus, and thank you for your time. Concerns are rising around this matter of the 30% pass rate, whether it can really be relied upon as an indicator of progress for learners in schools. What's your position?
Well, good evening, and thanks for having me. It's a storm in a teacup. It's a rubbish debate because the debate is based on not knowing what the 30% does. Let me simply explain. The history is we've always had a minimum pass mark of 33 1/3%. So the 30% is not much different, but that is not even important. The 30% is for one subject. You can't pass more than one subject at 30% and still expect to get a certificate. And besides, no 30% is going to end up being a doctor or being at university, except, of course, if that 30% is in that second language, which so many learners battle with. But the bottom line, Thabo, is that we have an academic curriculum. And if you raise the pass percentage to 50%, what you are effectively doing is condemning at least 20 to 30% of our children to failure, simply because they will not be able to cope with the rigors of the academic curriculum. So this also assists that cohort of learners. I want to say that I don't believe the folk that are proposing this and that are ventilating about it so much have even looked at the international experience. Exit certificates don't even need a minimum requirement to get in many, many countries. South Africa still puts there a 30%. Yeah. So in fact, we are even at a higher level than many first world countries. Yeah. So it's a nonsense debate in my opinion.
So I mean, maybe there is no full understanding really of what the standard that you've put in place really is. But one argues that well, if we are already putting a standard to say, well, you have to pass at least 3 of your subjects at 40%, why not just raise the level anyway and put it at 50% and put that as a standard? If we have standard for one thing, why don't we have standard for the other?
For the very reasons that I mentioned about this being a very, very academic curriculum, we are not catering for the child who's not academic. And what you will then be doing is creating a situation where you have large numbers of children not being able to get an exit certificate. But added to that, to what end? We've always had a 40% pass mark, in fact, for higher grade at the time. It is still 40% now. And even the child who just gets 40% won't get enough points to enter into tertiary education. So that is why I'm saying I think we are overplaying this. The reality is that until such time that we have the academic curriculum for the academic child, and when we successfully implement the 3 streams model where we cater for children of different abilities, it doesn't make sense to fiddle with it. In fact, NEPTOSA will strongly oppose that because over many, many years, we have seen what this does and how this helps the non-academic child.
So, I mean, some arguments that I've seen quite critical of the educators themselves, saying, well, educators want to pass by with doing bare minimum work, really, so they're comfortable with kids having to pass at 30%. But if we raise the threshold to 50%, at least they would need to improve themselves and do a little bit of work and apply themselves.
Thabo, what such people forget or what they ignore is that a teacher is teaching a mixed ability class. And there are children in that class that may be getting A's, that may be getting above 70 and 80%. And in the same class, you have children that are getting 30%. It is not that the teacher is not putting in effort. It is also linked to the ability and, of course, also the interest of children. And we must remember that. But it is untrue that this is about teachers teaching less. You're not teaching 30%. You're still teaching the whole curriculum. And from the whole curriculum, some children are going to get a 50 and a 60 and a 70, whilst others are going to get 20s and 30s. And that is our reality. But now here's the litmus test. How many children have passed based purely on the 30%? Now we can look at the results of 2020, but better still, in a few days, we can look at the results of 2021. And you will see that the sheer number pale into insignificance when compared to those who managed to pass without the 30%.
Yeah. So what's the thinking around the different levels of achievement in the context of what our economy requires as an output coming from the education system, right? I think the last list of critical skills that I saw from the Minister of Higher Education included things like engineering, things like IT skills. All these would require you to be at a particular level of academic achievement to be able to at least accomplish and get a job.
Thabo, this has more to do with the curriculum than it has to do with pass percentages. I want to say that now, with COVID upon us, we're sitting on the cusp of a great opportunity to relook at our curriculum and to see whether our curriculum actually feeds into 21st century technologies and skills, and whether we shouldn't be paying more attention to removing from the CAPS curriculum, this overcrowded curriculum as it is, the unnecessary things. Then we don't need to be worrying too much about the percentages. Yes, good pass percentages are good for the country. They're also good for universities to attract top pupils. But we don't have a country of only top pupils. We have a country of a vast mixed ability group, and we must always bear that in mind.
Yeah. Speaking of universities, I mean, university admission itself looking at a minimum of 50% to be attained in 4 subjects. Are we, well, I suppose you've answered that question in part by saying that ultimately the final outcome, you find that the number of those who are at the 30% mark are quite low compared to those who do get university entrance. Is that the case?
Absolutely. And remember that the university demands a certain point system to enter into the university. If you are going to be floating around the 30% mark, and that is where you are pegging your results, you will not get the requisite points to enter the university. And hence, because the universities and tertiary institutions are attracting the cream, so to speak, it makes sense that their pass requirements will then be catering to that cohort, because that is possible. But if they were catering to the lower end, you wouldn't be able to do that.
Now, what do you make of the many parents who have joined this petition? I think it's over 1,000, maybe even 1,500 of them, who really do believe that raising the threshold to 50% would improve our education system.
I would like to hear how they see this improving the education system, because I'm not convinced by it. The last time I looked, there were about 9,000 signatures out of 58 million people. That hardly registers as a mass number of pressure points being applied to the education system. I don't believe that it's going to do anything, but I do believe that it's healthy to look at the requirements, past requirements included, every now and again, to look at the curriculum and to review the curriculum for the context we are in. And that is why I'm saying, forget the percentage, let's look at the curriculum and see how we can get more skills out of a better curriculum than we currently have. Yeah. But certainly, I want to say, show me that children being asked to get a higher percentage is going to improve their academic performance all round.
Yeah. In a couple of days, we'll probably be getting that pass rate for the year 2021. The details of the the results will not be published now because of the POPIA Act, but at least they will give us that percentage. Can we rely on that percentage? Because the concern is that, I mean, with kids allowed to pass at 30%, that particular percentage that we are given is not the best indicator of progress in the sector.
Thabo, there are a couple of things that we must discern from what you've said. Number one, there's the overall pass percentage. And yes, that pass percentage doesn't give us an indication of how well children did, but rather this is the mass that met the requirements and the minimum requirements to pass. However, because none of what will be revealed in terms of pass percentages will be in conflict with the POPI Act, we will then delve much deeper, and we would look at how many children have passed meeting the minimum requirements. And I will again say to you, it will be a fraction, and that there will be children primarily in the middle cohort, your 40s, your 50s, and up to 55%, that will make up the majority. And then the cream, your 60, 70, 80% will make up a smaller percentage again. That is the norm with all learners, and particularly in South Africa, where we have such a vast range of abilities in our schools. It is a great pity, but it's not unexpected that results can't be published and the identifier of children can't appear in the newspaper. We should have expected that. If you lived through POPI last year, when we all had to try and look at compliance, you would understand why this has happened. It also protects those children who, at those great celebrations, stood there and couldn't find their name and left there devastated. So it does protect those children. At the same time, even those celebrations had their place because it was a great happening for the vast majority of learners and a nice time for them to shed their childhood and then move into adulthood. So whilst I'm lamenting it, I do understand that with the POPI Act, this is just not possible.
Basil, appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining us. Basil Manuel, the Executive Director for NIPTOSA. Next.